Hello and welcome to The Fuck Did I Just Watch with your host, Kyle McLemore. This week we'll be reviewing the 2022 film The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz, directed by Matt Reeves, known for directing Planet of the Apes and Cloverfield. We'll go ahead and start with what's good, followed by what's bad, and then we'll wrap things up with our overall review. If you haven't taken a moment to like and subscribe, please do so now, and go ahead and comment on what other movies you'd like us to review. Let's go ahead and get things started here with the overall synopsis of the movie. The Batman, rated PG-13. When the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. That's right. We'll be breaking down this film pretty much from start to finish, so if you haven't seen it yet and you'd still like to, go ahead and pause now and you return later after you've watched the movie, because this is your official spoiler alert! Bat signal up there, but it's the spoiler signal. Okay, so this is definitely a dark, gritty take on The Batman, clocking in at 2 hours and 56 minutes. 2 hours, 56 minutes. I believe it is the longest Batman movie to date. One of the longest superhero movies. I think only like Avengers Endgame is slightly longer, or maybe just a little bit shorter. But pretty bold of Mr. Matt Reeves, who also helped write the movie, to come out of the gate with his first installment with a 3-hour beginning. Robert Pattinson apparently signed on to a 3-movie deal, so this is the first of a triple movie series. There's going to be another trilogy, and coming out of the gate with 3 hours, so I can't wait for the third movie, which I can only assume will be somewhere around 5 hours. So let's go ahead and start with the overall story. It's about Batman. Apparently he's in his second year. There's a part where he's doing his little journaling and diaries of Batman's diary, and on the cover of the book it says the Batman experiment, or the Gotham experiment, year 2. So this is presumably the second year that he's been vigilanteing, that he's been harassing as the Cape Crusader. So let's talk about what's good in this movie. We'll go ahead and start with performances. Let's go ahead and start with the obvious, Robert Pattinson as the new Bruce Wayne / Batman. Would you like to see my impersonation of Robert Pattinson as Batman? All right, here we go. Get a nice close-up. Let's do it with this one right here. How do you know Carmine Falcone? All right, let's do it from this side. Tell me where the Riddler is. Like, he's always, like, side-eyeing everybody, like, he's always looking at everybody from the side, like, hey, what's up? I'm Batman. And then I feel like everybody's kind of, like, doing, like, that hush kind of talk. Like, they're not conversating, like, at a normal volume. It's always like, hey, listen to me. Come here. What are you doing? Come here, listen to me. Now I gotta tell you this. Like, everyone's always talking like how you talk to somebody, like, come here. So anyway, this is definitely a dark, gritty interpretation of the Batman, so they're definitely trying to go like all dark and gritty. It's constantly raining, and it's constantly dark, and it's very dark and gritty, and he always has his mascara running, and it looks very like he hasn't washed his hair in a long time, so got the gritty part down. Good. How is his Batman voice? I feel like he doesn't do the Christian Bale, like, he doesn't do super deep. What he does is, I feel like everyone's always talking like in a hushed kind of voice, like the kind of voice you use like when you gather everybody up, like, hey, come on, everybody here. All right, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to go over there and we're going to capture their flag. Like, the way you talk when you bring everybody in a huddle, like, all right, let's talk about this. That's like his basic Batman voice. And then, like, there's like maybe 1 or 2 parts where he's like pushing a table without a shirt on or something. And he's definitely in shape, but he's not like Christian Bale shredded. Like, he looks, I mean, it is technically year 2. This is supposed to be the second year. There's a part where he's doing his Batman journal, and on the cover it says the Batman experiment year 2. So presumably in this storyline, this is his second year out on the streets. We're introduced to a lot of characters in this movie. Zoe Kravitz shows up as Selina Kyle, also aka Catwoman. Zoe Kravitz was okay. Catwoman, notoriously very kind of seductive and like always playing with Batman. She has this thing when she's walking around. She's always doing this thing, really making what's her name, Tyra Banks from America's Next Top Model or whatever. She's like everywhere, even when she's like Catwoman, she's like, gonna steal some stuff. Hey, let's go look through the club. All right, let's go. Hey, is that you, Batman? Like everywhere she goes, just like, bah, bah, strut it, show your fashion, girl. And then yeah, she's always calling him like vengeance, which is cool. Like the first couple times, because like he kind of calls himself vengeance, like I am vengeance. And then there's a part later where like Colin Farrell as the Penguin is like, oh hey, Mr. Vengeance here. And then later she's like, hey, what's up, vengeance? But then it slowly turns into like that's the only thing anybody ever calls him is vengeance. Like nobody calls him. I don't think anybody says Batman, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think anyone calls him Batman the whole movie. I think it's always vengeance or like maybe they call him the Bat. Yeah, but whatever. He seems to be pretty notorious in Gotham. But that's another thing too. It's like everyone seems to know about the Bat. He has the Bat signal. But then there's a part where like he's confronting some gang members and they're like, oh, get a look at this guy. What are you supposed to be, huh? Some kind of a bat or something? I don't know. So it's like, all right, well, he seems pretty notorious, but then at the same time, not notorious at all. And speaking of that accent I did, we can talk about Gotham a little bit. Gotham, like in the different movies of the Batman, Gotham is always kind of like its own thing. So in Tim Burton, it's very gothic. It's very like operatic. There's like giant statues of dudes like Atlas like holding buildings and stuff. It's like super operatic. Go into the more, I want to say like the George Clooney ones like Batman Forever and stuff like that. Kind of had the same kind of vibe of like the gothic big statues, but just more like kind of colorful and neon. And then you get the Dark Knight or like the Christopher Nolan ones, which are like supposed to be more realistic, and it's based on like it's more of like a Chicago thing. Like I think a lot of it was filmed in Chicago, and it's never really pointed out as like, oh, this is like Chicago. It's like it's Gotham. It just has like a Chicago vibe. And they're kind of doing that in this one. It's definitely more New York. So this is like the New York version of Gotham, which is fine. The part that bothers me is that instead of making it like with Christopher Nolan, where it's like Chicago-esque, where we have the same kind of trains, the same kind of city layout, it's like that with the New York Gotham, except they just pretty much copy and pasted New York and just slap like the Gotham thing on everything. So it's like there's even a part where they're like, oh shit, everybody's here at Madison Square Garden, but it's not Madison Square Garden, it's Gotham Square Garden. So it's like, all right, you really couldn't call it anything else. There's a part where they have like their own Times Square. It's exactly Times Square, except it's just Gotham. They still have all the billboards and everything, and like there's lots of big shots of the city, and it looks exactly like New York with just like a Gotham sticker placed on top of where it would say New York. Like, and then everybody's got like a heavy New York accent. The Penguin is straight up like a mix of, I don't know, Pacino and De Niro together. Like there's a part where they're like, look at this picture, and he's like, oh, hey, get out, what are you doing here? Hey, I'm the Penguin, huh? Hey, what are you doing? Like it's that level of New York, like, hey, let's go get a slice of some famous Gotham pizza, huh? You like your pizza Chicago? I like my pizza Gotham style. This thin slice at Gotham. Hey, if you can make it at Gotham in the Big Apple, huh? Like it just kind of bothered me that they didn't try to make it like its own thing. They were just like, it's New York, but we're calling it Gotham. And like the Gotham Square Garden thing really bothered me. Like, you couldn't just name it like a different arena. It had to be Madison Square Garden, but Gotham Square Garden. But whatever. Definitely rainy a lot. Definitely dark a lot. Matches the whole gritty tone Let's go ahead and we talked about Gotham. Let's go through the cast. We did Robert Pattinson, Kravitz. We can talk about Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Definitely out of everybody in the cast, the most physical makeup done. A lot of prosthetics on the face to basically make him unrecognizable as Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell also pretty notorious as having like a really thick Irish accent, but like I said, he's straight up like from New York. Ah, hey, what are you doing? Hey, you're messing with one of us. You're messing with all of us, huh? So he's super New York, which is fine. I mean, like his performance is cool. It's also kind of weird too, because I think he's also got the record for the tallest penguin like ever. Like I think Colin Farrell's like basically 6 foot or more, maybe, but that's a tall ass penguin. But he's fine. I mean, it was funny. I enjoy like his whole like, oh, hey, what are you doing? Get out of here. So that was cool. Jeffrey Wright, Lieutenant James Gordon, he was cool too. I feel like his voice the entire movie was just like Batman, where they're just talking very hushed together, like, hey, what are you doing? I stuck my neck out for you. And then there's also that weird, like, it's his second year, so we're already caught up. Like, he obviously has like an established relationship with Gordon already, but apparently no relationship with any other cop, because there's a part right at the beginning where he's walking up to a crime scene and Gordon's basically like, hey, he's with me, let's let him take a look. And there's like 70 cops in that building, and each one of them is like, look at this piece of shit, you gonna let this guy touch our evidence, chief? What the fuck is this? And I was like, alright, I guess Gordon's the only one that thinks Batman's kind of cool, I guess. John Turturro is awesome, and I was really excited for him to be Carmine Falcone. Or is it Falcone? Like Falcone. But like, I don't know, like I feel like he was just okay. Like he had sunglasses on the whole movie, which was kind of like, why do you have to be having sunglasses on all the time? Andy Serkis as Alfred. I was curious why Andy Serkis showed up in this movie, and it made sense with Matt Reeves directing. I'm sure him and Matt Reeves have a pretty good relationship. I mean, Andy Serkis in all of the Planet of the Apes movies, so I'm assuming that's where they know each other and why he brought him in. But Alfred was like barely in this movie. First of all, he's not even really like the butler. They have this other lady like Dora or something who's like apparently the butler for both of them, because there's a part where he's like, I think he needs like a letter. He said, Dora, did you write that letter for me? And she's like, oh yes, sir, Mr. Alfred. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like I thought Alfred was the butler. And then later, like, Bruce is like calling his house, and like she picks up, and he's like, oh, where's Alfred? And she's like, oh, and it's like, bitch, why are you answering? What does Alfred do around here? Like, I thought he was the butler guy. But he's barely in it. He's in it a little bit, and he's like, oh, I love you, Bruce. And then he gets blown up, and he's basically out of the movie. He survives, and he's like, I'm all good, but I'm barely in this movie. Paul Dano as the Riddler. Fan of Paul Dano. I liked him in There Will Be Blood. He was also in that crazy movie with Hugh Jackman. Can't remember what it's called, where he was like falsely accused of being like a predator or something. But Paul Dano was cool. So we get into the plan of like the Riddler, who's going around murdering, like straight up killing these political people. First it's like the mayor who gets murdered, and then he tries to, no, he doesn't try, he does kill the DA, the district attorney. He tries to kill Bruce Wayne, but fails. Yeah, and then like his big finale at the end was to blow up the seawall, which would flood the city, and then he'd have his minions shoot the new mayoral candidate, that chick, or Real or whatever. And it's interesting too, because Batman basically doesn't stop the Riddler at all. Like, I'm trying to think. Okay, so he kills the mayor, but that's at the first crime, so it's like you can't really stop the first one. But then like the DA guy, he's got like a bomb on him. He's answering all these questions before he blows up, and he's just like, oh, blows him up, and it's like, well, there goes the DA. Doesn't stop the seawall from flooding. He blows up like 7 different vans of explosive, which floods the entire city. Doesn't stop that. Goes to the Gotham Square Garden, where there's like a bunch of these other Riddler fanatics who are there to like finish his thing or whatever end up shooting the mayor. So she gets shot, and she's only saved because Gordon's there to like grab her and save her. So it doesn't stop any of those plans. What plan does it stop? This is the part where the Riddler's like, no, you messed it all up. He like stops the flooding. No, he doesn't stop the flooding. He just beats the shit out of all the snipers on the roof. Like, there was a bunch of Riddler snipers that were supposed to finish his plan of killing the mayor, and he stops them by beating the shit out of all of them. Yeah. Wanted to see if they had the... But yeah, it doesn't stop the Riddler at all. I mean, like, that's the only part that gets foiled is that the mayor-elect didn't die. She just got shot. A part that was interesting is the duality of the Batman and Bruce Wayne. Usually, through like almost every interpretation of Batman ever, has been the interesting duality of like the Batman being like dark and actually like his true self, and then also balancing with like the playboy lifestyle of like the carefree Bruce Wayne. And I've always loved the switch, like when he has to go to like a party or something and be all cool and suave, but then he really wants to be Batman. In this one, not cool and suave at all. He's very I think I've read multiple things on the director going for like a Kurt Cobain vibe. Apparently he's listening to that Underneath the Bridge song while he was writing like the entire script, so which would explain why that's basically the only song that's in this movie. Really hope you like that. Like, hey, I love Nirvana, and that song is kind of cool, but like for that being the only song in the whole movie, like that, and that's basically the tone of the whole movie too, is just underneath the bridge. I'm Batman and I'm kind of sad. Like, that's like the whole movie is like very that tone of just like no, and that song gets played over and over and over. So Batman is more of like a Kurt Cobain kind of recluse in his mansion, doesn't want to talk to nobody. There's even a part where he's like putting on sunglasses during the day, and it's like, oh, look how cool you are, rock star Bruce Wayne. But it's like, all right, so I guess in this Wayne-averse, he's more reclusive than he is like kind of playboyish, so it's like, all right. Yeah, Riddler basically kind of succeeds a little bit. I think the only part he kind of fails at is, I don't know, Batman was cleaning up the aftermath. Like, he succeeded in flooding the city, killed all those people that he wanted to kill. He doesn't get to kill the mayor. I mean, he shot her, and then technically he doesn't get to kill Bruce Wayne, which he also wanted to. There's a big reveal / twist / twist where Batman finally confronts the Riddler in Arkham. And there's a part where the Riddler's like, Bruce Wayne. And Batman's like, ah, shit, he totally knows who I am. And he's like, yeah, fuck Bruce Wayne, right? Like, am I right? Like, that guy's a dick. I tried to kill him, but I failed. Otherwise, I'm awesome. But yeah, we can both agree that Bruce kind of sucks, right? And he's like, ooh, thought you were saying that I'm Bruce Wayne, which I'm totally not. But I am. But I'm not. Glad you don't know, but I thought you did. Which is also interesting, too. Like, Riddler knows all this stuff, and Riddler plans everything so perfectly, but somehow misses that Bruce Wayne is Batman. I honestly thought that they were going for like a Hush kind of thing. One of the famous Batman comics, Hush, where I think the plot is like this dude's great grandfather. They talked about it like he's like an editor or something, or like a newspaper writer who gets like murdered. And then like his great grandson ends up being the guy Hush who like tries to get revenge for Thomas Wayne or something. Tries to get revenge, the sins of the father, that whole thing. So maybe they were doing like a little hint at like a possible Hush thing. Like, I mean, they have 2 more movies coming out, so who knows where they're gonna go. But yeah, Riddler basically outwits Batman pretty successfully. There were lots of little Easter eggs like that, like the whole Arkham thing and the whole Hush thing. They had like the Tweedledee, Tweedledum, the twins as like the bodyguards. That was cool. You never see Tweedledee, Tweedledum interpreted in like a real life movie, which was cool. They also did a little Easter egg of like, there's a part where Batman's basically like out for the count, and then he's about to like watch him like kill Catwoman or something. So he takes like a little vial and like adrenaline blast himself, but it's like this neon green, and the only neon green that makes you like strong and crazy is like the venom. So there could be a little Venom Easter egg, maybe alluding to like Bane coming in a later movie. They also have Joker show up at the very, very end. He's like conveniently locked in the cell right next to the Joker. Who is the warden of Arkham who's just like, where do we lock up the Riddler? I don't know, the cell directly next to the Joker, I guess. I mean, but hey, make sure you leave their vent things open so they can totally talk to each other the whole time. Like, don't you dare seclude them. They're crazy psychopaths, but they need, a little communication that helps a little bit with the rehabilitation. It's Arkham, bitch. Blah. So yeah, talked about the good. What else? Oh, the Batmobile was cool. I liked the Batmobile. Batmobile was awesome. It was like a different, like more like a muscle car kind of take. It had like a big old jet engine on the back, which was cool. The chase scene was pretty cool. There's a part where like all this shit's like blowing up in front of him. Batman's like, fuck it, and just like hits the nos. And then like a trailer perfectly like lines up so he can fucking ramp that shit out of there, which I was just like, oh. That was a cool little Fast and Furious moment where just this ramp just appears conveniently to just like send me airborne over the explosion in slow motion. So that was cool. Yeah, I mean, we talked about some good, we talked about some bad. What would be the overall? I mean, I feel like the reception overall has been generally positive. Budget of about $2 million, and it's already made 200 million. Box office $600 million, so it's made its money back already and then some. So financially successful. I'd say generally speaking, I think the reception has been mostly positive. A lot of people liking the movie. I've talked to some other people who have really liked the movie. I thought it was honestly okay. Like it's all right. It's not bad. It's not really amazing either. I mean, I feel like it was pretty aggressive, starting with like a 3-hour movie, and then that entire 3-hour movie is literally underneath the bridge. Like that's the vibe for 3 hours of just like slow and kind of depressing. Which I get. You're going for like a gritty, dark Batman or whatever. It's gonna be very Nirvana-ish, and I mean like that was his whole inspiration for Bruce Wayne in this movie, so I get it. I get the vibe. What do we want to rate it? There was other things too, like stuff that I feel like was just like thrown in at the last minute. Like there's a part like the Venom thing, like he just pops in and just like, okay, what the fuck was that in the last 15 minutes of the movie? Or like the whole movie, he has like the bat symbol on his chest, and like in the last 15 minutes, you see him like take it off, and it's like a knife, and it's like, oh shit. Where's that been this whole fucking movie? You're going to introduce that in the last 10 minutes or whatever? And he uses it to, like, cut an electrical wire and fall down. But it's like, where's the Batarang? Is that not a Batarang? Like, can you not think of a better time to use, like, it's like a dangling electric wire that he jumps onto and then cuts, when you could have just, like, Batarang, and just, like, cut it from a distance, like how Batman does with his fucking Batarang. But whatever. Year 2... Maybe he's still getting the hang of the Batarang, doesn't have the return yet. So we'll see in year 3 and 4 and 5. Yeah, and then Catwoman talks about going to Bloodhaven, so I don't know. We'll see what's up with that. Yeah, overall, what's the rating overall? Out of 10? It's a long-ass movie. It's not a terrible movie. It's not a great movie. I'm going to do it like a 7. 7 out of 10. I'll do 7 Batarangs out of 10. If you felt differently, be sure to comment and let us know what you thought about the movie and what you thought about the review. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in for Dafuq. did I just watch with the Batman? Tune in next week and we'll have another movie for you. If you have a movie you'd like to see reviewed, be sure to leave a comment. Thank you again for tuning in. We'll see you next time on The Fuck Did I Just Watch?